You found me at last. I suspect you have questions.
So, we finally have it. This is Dragon Age, and we have finally seen the teaser for Dragon Age 4. It features some interesting concepts that I definitely want to go over, and bear with me here because it's going to be kind of a unpolished kind of discussion, but essentially what I wanted to talk about first was the trailer itself. I couldn't help but think back to the storylines and whatnot when all of this happened. For instance, when Solas says this line,
I suspect you have questions.
And the scenes, the imagery going on in the background, it kind of changes. It changes a little bit of my perspective on the Dragon Age world. Let's start with the fact that in like around halfway through the trailer, you can see like an elven mage. It looks like an elven mage, what could be depicted by Solas, minus the hair. He doesn't have hair, so minus the hair. But it looks like he's got his hand up to a dragon, or well, a creature, but the creature resembles what will definitely look like a dragon, if not a gigantic serpent. Now, the symbol in the middle, I'm not too keen on, but one part of me thought maybe this could. I mean, when you see the flames, like the lava kind of bulging up into the body, I thought maybe that was like the sign of a dragon. But then you see the queen, and it's like a dead woman, is what it is. That made me think of Mythal. There was this betrayal that happened. They go into it a little bit in the story for Dragon Age Inquisition as well, but that did make me think of either that might represent Mythal, Andraste. It's less likely Andraste, but definitely could represent Mythal. Mythal's dead at this point, is what it looks like. At the end of Inquisition, she comes to Solas, and it looks like he absorbs her to get her power, or to do something of that nature, whether he's absorbing her, absorbing the soul that Morrigan's son had in him to get himself more power. Something happens there, and she might not be completely gone. It depends really on if maybe the story thinks that you drank from the well. See, this is where the story would kind of contradict itself as well, because if the story thinks that you drank from the well and that you're bound to Mythal, then maybe you're like, the last piece of Mythal is inside of you. But if you didn't drink from the well, then that means Morrigan might have drank from the well, and that means it's inside her. The last piece of Mythal might still be there, could still be alive and whatnot, but this picture right here, I think it definitely depicts her. And I think what'll happen here is it's going to go into the story of the elven gods. Solas says at the end that he's going to bring down the veil. In the end of the Trespasser DLC for Dragon Age Inquisition, when there is a cliffhanger like no other, he says he wants to bring down the veil, which I think personally is a terrible idea. Honestly, I don't know what he's thinking. This is the guy that gave Corypheus his orb, maybe indirectly, but this is the guy that wasn't strong enough to open up that orb to bring down the veil in the first place, so he had to give it to Corypheus to unlock it. This guy started something worse, I'd say, kind of worse than the Blight, because sure, Darkspawn are terrible and whatnot. Darkspawn will just kill you though, first of all. Demons are a whole nother ballpark. We see what happened in the Grey Warden Fortress when all those people were being possessed and whatnot, turned into demons. That's like a lifetime of servitude right there. That's like, if you get possessed, you guys remember in Circle of Magi's Tower when the Pride Demon, I believe it's the Pride Demon in there in Dragon Age Origins, and you have to go through that long freaking sequence of being in the Fade and whatnot. Imagine that, but everybody has to go through it. I think I'd rank what the Dreadwolf did worse than a Blight, even though everybody could die in a Blight. But hell, if a demon invasion happened, everybody's not just gonna be screwed, but they're also gonna be living in a lifetime of torment, so that would be even worse too. But let's go back to the story. So what happens in the story so far? One thing I wanted to talk about is the old gods and the elven gods. There was a theory a while back that the elven gods were actually remnants, or the old gods were actually remnants of the elven gods. The theory people have is when he sealed them in the Fade, the old gods were remnants, what was left in the world of those elven gods. Now, if you look at, and this is a pretty interesting theory that I've seen here, There's charts and whatnot of people post all over the internet about this sort of thing. But if you look at how many elven gods there are, there's 7 left. 7 left. And you compare them to how many old gods there are and how many have come about so far. So there's 7 old gods. There's Dumat, there's Zasikil, I believe, Toth, Andoral, the other one I can't pronounce, Earthymile, Razikale, and Lusakan. Dumat is the dragon of silence, Zaz is the dragon of chaos, Toth is the dragon of fire, Andoral, dragon of slaves, and Earth is the dragon of beauty. All 5 of them have already come about. The 5th blight is where we come in Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age Awakening. That is Earth. Earthymile, who also has a daughter who we have to slay later on as well. But the other 2 have not been seen yet. So there's Raz and there's Lusakan, the Dragon of Mystery and the Dragon of Night. We haven't seen them yet. But the Elven gods kind of match up with this. So there's 2 gods that were not sealed in the Fade. So there was Mythal, the Great Protector, and there was Finharel, the Dread Wolf, also known as Solas. There's at least 7 left. Mythal was the counterpart. She was the patron of motherhood and justice, and leads the pantheon with their male counterpart, Elgar Nan, who is just so happens to be the god of vengeance. Which once a guy like that gets out of the Veil, you got a lot of pissed off elven gods, and you just got one Finharel Dreadwolf up against those guys. Either this is going to turn into a Gandalf situation where
his foe is beyond any. Run!
Solas said he was going to bring down the Veil and try to release the elven gods. Why? Well, he was asleep for a long time. He awoke, he found that his people were enslaved in like Tevinter and whatnot, all living in alienages and everything like that. His people they really lost their way, because before the elves were really powerful when the creators were there, the elven gods, which according to him were not really gods, but they were more of just really powerful elven mages. But they were prosperous, even though the elven gods weren't always that good. Sometimes they enslaved people and other elves and whatnot, and they had a lot of followers, they had a lot of believers, so they weren't almighty and just completely honorable. So Solas, he sealed them in the Fade because of that, or the Veil because of that. He thought that they'd do a lot better without them, and then he kind of left to sleep, and then he came back. Boom. Doesn't sound like it's going to be great. There's going to be a lot of mayhem, and my theory is if these guys are not tied to the old gods like that, I think what's going to happen is the death and destruction, the amount of chaos that's going to be erupted from this, like God versus God, or just gods going havoc on the land. It's going to wake up those old gods if they're not tied to them. I think this is going to cause the 6th blight. And it just so happens that the next god is going to be the Dragon of Mystery. And from what Bioware has posted, they want this story to span over 2 more games. It looks like that they have planned. I could definitely see a 6th blight coming out of this. Well, and 2 more blights. Hello, Raz and Lusakan, the Dragon of Mystery, the Dragon of Night. There you go. So I think what's going to happen here is either the elven gods, they're going to be coming out of there as dragons themselves and possibly susceptible to the taint, or something of that nature, or might not even be susceptible to the taint but just coming out as dragons by this picture here. Or they're going to cause so much mayhem that they're going to wake up an old god, they're going to get tainted, and there's going to be another blight. There's going to be archdemons coming out of the mix. Or who knows, Lusakan and Raz could come out both at once, and then everybody's screwed at that point. Two archdemons at once, yeah, that sounds like fun. So that's what people were theorizing. What I think is going to happen in the story overall, I think we're definitely going to go to Tevinter. The question is going to be who we're going to be playing, of course. I honestly don't know if we'll be playing as our Inquisitor. I mean, we're missing an arm, there's not a lot you can do with an arm unless you got like a cybernetic implant, or I guess if they somehow give us a metal arm, but even then it's gonna be interesting. You can't really do any kind of one-handed sword and shield fighting, that's for sure. So we might just be one-handed warriors. But what I think could happen, because if I remember right, in Inquisition, the hero Ferelden never shows up aside from possibly a letter that gets sent to you. And I think you might redeem or look at that through the war table. But either the hero Ferelden might come back, or we get a new character entirely. I think no matter what happens at the end of Dragon Age Inquisition, I don't believe Hawk would be capable of going up against an archdemon per se, if that does come about. Those 7 elven gods coming out of the blue, and I don't know what Solas has a plan for, but it's probably not going to be the smartest thing ever. There's no way he's going to solo stop them all in their tracks right when they get out of the Veil. I think he's going to underestimate them. Either he wants them to get out of the Veil because he wants to sympathize with them, and he thinks that they're going to make the world a better place again, because how elves have fallen so much into the pits now. They've been enslaved and whatnot. He thinks maybe, how could this be any better than what we had before, so I should probably just release them. Or he legitimately thinks that he could set a big enough trap to hold 7 elven old pissed off gods. And gods or not, like, those guys are very powerful mages. They're going to have that rage about them, so it's going to be very hard to keep them confined. They're going to do everything they can to survive once they get out of there, for sure. They're probably just biding their time, so they probably had a lot of time to think and prepare for it too. So I don't think it's going to go according to plan on Solas's part. I think whatever he's got cooked up, it's going to fail miserably. So definitely, we're probably going to see Dorian again. We're probably going to Venter. We're going to have a new companions, more than likely, I'd imagine, because after Inquisition, everybody kind of goes their separate ways, whether you disband the Inquisition or not disband it. Dorian, I believe, goes back to Venter. Cassandra, depending on how your story goes, she becomes the new Divine, or Liliana does. And then, like, other people go off on their own. I think Varric goes back with Hawk and tries to help out over there. And some other people kind of go their separate ways as well. Sarah's probably going to go her separate way. If you disband the Inquisition, though, one thing that is interesting is Cole, the spirit of the Fade, that comes to you to help you out. He's the assassin. He goes back into the Fade, but he says that there will be more pain to come, and that when his companions need him the most, he will be there to help them. I think Cole kind of knows what's coming, and I think Cole kind of knows that the Dreadwolf's plan is going to fall flat on his face. He may be the god of tricks and whatnot. He may be very clever, but if they are like the if the old gods are the remnants of the elven gods, and the elven gods are able to turn into dragons, which seems like is going on by this trailer, either they're the old gods, or that's one of the old gods, like maybe that's Zaz or Luska, or that is a dead-on elven god right there. And either way you slice it, that's bad. That means bad news. So I definitely think that a blight could happen here. I think that something's gonna happen there for sure. But hey, let me know what you guys think. This is the trailer we got, so it's probably gonna be a little while before we get anything new. But hey, I'm hoping the best for it. I'm excited. This is the first we've seen of Dragon Age in a very long time. Can't wait to see this game come to fruition. I really can't. And you guys have a good night. I'll see you next time. Later.